So here we are, week 4 of our latest sermon series, Church for a Post-COVID World. Not quite post-COVID, I realise, but hopefully we're getting there. We're heading in the right direction, right? Yeah, by the grace of God, we're heading in the right direction. And the title for today is this: Church in a Post-COVID World, week 4. Jesus is Lord all the time. Jesus is Lord all the time. Now that might seem obvious to some of you, but maybe not to others. Maybe God's control or influence and authority in our lives is something which is kind of separated into some chunks of our life, but not others. But actually, Jesus is Lord all the time. Now, Josh and Faith, I was expecting some more kids. Are there any big kids out here who can help me? I can't be the only one here. Any big kids that can help me? All right. No, that's not part of the deal. Just kidding. I have got 2 £5 notes here, and I want to give them to 2 people. So who would like a £5 note? Okay, Faith, you can be the first one. Come up here. All right, here's my first £5 note. Do you want to wave it around and show it to everyone?
All right.
Is it real, Faith? Hold it up.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So how do you feel about getting that £5 note, Faith?
It's only £5, so...
It's only £5, so we've done something wrong with obviously. Only 5, well, there you have it. Make of that what you will. All right. Can I have someone else to come and receive my other £5 note? Yeah, Chantal, nice one. Right, here you go. There you go, there's your £5 note. You pleased to have received that? No? What's wrong with it?
Can't do anything with it.
Can't do anything with it. Well, just so you guys probably can't see it, there on the screen are the 2 £5 notes. Faith was made up to get the £5 note that I gave her. Chantal is not impressed at all with the £5 note that she's got. In fact, she's trying to swap it. See? That was quite telling. That's all right, you can sit down with it, it's fine. One of those was the top £5 note on the screen. The other was the bottom £5 note on the screen from the Bank of Chris. And there's my face to show that it's from the Bank of Chris. I drew that myself, so there you go. So Faith was happy to get hers. Chantal was not happy to get hers, and Chantal actually got to do a swap with Faith so that she could have the proper one. You see, the Queen's image on the real fiver shows us where it's come from, what it's worth, and who's in charge of it. Where's it come from? Well, the image shows us it's made in a factory called the Royal Mint, with the Queen's permission. The fiver that Chantal had with my face on, well, that's obviously not real money. What is the real fiver worth? Well, the image that we have of it shows us it has a real value of £5. You can actually go into shops anywhere in the country and buy stuff with that one. Chantal knew she couldn't buy anything with my fiver, and therefore that's why she wanted to swap it. And finally, who's in charge? I'm talking once again about the proper fiver on there. In fact, I'll just go to this clicker so you can see. Who's in charge of this money? Well, although the money in our bank accounts or piggy banks is ours, the whole kind of money system and money supply is under the government's authority and the Queen's. And we see this when the government collects in old coins or old notes and prints new money. So we get all those things from seeing that this is a real £5 note. Seeing that the Queen's head is on this piece of paper shows us that it is those things. It's real. It's government money. And it's come from a real place and it's worth something. So an image can be significant, can't it? An image can tell us a lot. Now in our Matthew reading, did you notice how Jesus links the coin having the image or portrait and inscription of Caesar on it with the coin belonging to Caesar in some way. That's what Jesus does in this passage. He links, the coin's got the image and inscription, therefore in some way it belongs to Caesar. And Jesus asks them whose image and inscription is on the coin, which would have incidentally have looked a bit like this. Probably would have been Emperor Tiberius at the time. There is an actual denarius from that period. So it would have looked very much like this. You can see obviously, so obviously whose money that is. It's Caesar's image. There he is on the left. So Jesus says, when it comes to paying taxes, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. So giving taxes to Caesar is right, and giving to God what belongs to him is right. So we're going to think firstly about giving to Caesar, and then think about what it means to give to God. Now, Josh and Faith, and anyone else if you want it, I've got a task for you. I want you to do it in the next 3 or 4 minutes. I want you to draw an image of yourself. Faith, I can rely on you to do a really good one. Faith, would you draw a really good image of yourself for me, yeah? That would be great. And Josh, if you could as well, draw an image of yourself, draw a picture of yourself, and we'll pick it up in a minute. I'll give you maybe 3 or 4 minutes for that. Does anyone else want to draw an image of themselves? No? Okay. So as the kids draw, let's have a think about taxes to Caesar. Now, in some ways, the Roman Empire wasn't very nice. Even if they did build quite good straight roads, etc., all the stuff we learnt at school. But Jesus is clear. His disciples should pay their taxes, and it's the same for us 2,000 years later. You see, we live in a messed up world. And because of that, there are things we need to do now which we won't need to do in the new heavens and new earth. That is, the new, perfect, heavenly creation God has promised to followers of Jesus. There are things we need to do in this messed up world for the time being, which won't apply then. In the new creation, there won't be any police. Won't be any crime. So you don't need police. Right now we need police to keep the order and peace and justice. Now, of course, the police are not perfect at all. But having imperfect police is better than having no police at all. There also won't be any doctors or nurses or care workers in the new creation because there won't be any sickness or old age. But in this life, we need them. So when the government asks us to pay taxes to fund these and other things, we should pay. And in fact, and this is important, Christians can even love and serve their neighbour through being a police officer, a doctor, a nurse, or a care worker, bringing order or justice or medical care or 24-hour care instead of chaos, sickness and suffering. Christians can be used by God in those roles. In the new heavens and the new earth, there'll only be one government, the perfect government of our God, who will one day rule all of creation and all of society as he now rules in the hearts and minds of believers. But whilst we wait for that, it's the right thing to obey our government, unless they ask us to do something which directly contradicts our faith, which does happen around the world and could happen in this country. We've got comfortable, but it could happen. But generally speaking, we obey because, as we've mentioned, God can bring benefits to society like order, justice, medical care, even through not very good governments. So we give obedience and pay our taxes, just like Jesus told them to pay their taxes to the not very nice, in some ways, Roman imperial government. Now we move on to giving to God what is God's. And as we do that, let's ask a question. Where is the image of God found? Where is the image of God found? Right, Josh and Faith, can I have a picture? Have we got any pictures ready?
This is Josh's picture.
I just did
All right, so we've got... All right, know that?
She drew herself a blue hair.
Okay, so I think I'll go, Josh, that's all right, but I think I'm going to go with Faith, all right? Faith, could you stand up a minute for me? Hold on, just come over here. Okay. So, Faith, over there. So, who is this an image of?
I don't think it's me, but
Okay, so we're gonna go with it being you. All right. So, can everyone see that pretty well? Just about. Is that look like a reasonable image of Faith?
No.
Well, she hasn't got blue hair.
And neither do I have whatever that is coming off mine.
Okay. I have to say, there's a few things on this which could make me think it was you. You've got very long hair, and you have got very long hair. You've got brown eyes, and you've got browny, greeny eyes. And you also have a smile, and quite often you're smiling, which is nice. So I think this is an image of Faith, if we all agree. Yeah? So this is an image of faith. But who or what is Faith an image of? Who or what is Faith herself an image of? Anyone want to give an answer? Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Faith. Is it down now? Absolutely, Jenny. On the coin that was Caesar's, there is an image of Caesar. But where is the image of God found? Where will we find the image of God? Look at this from Genesis. Genesis 1:27 says this. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. So all of humanity, male and female, is created in the image of God. What that means is that just as the coin had the image of Caesar on, and we should give it back to him, and for us, in paying our taxes, our coins have got the Queen on. So when we pay our taxes, we give them back to her. But here we see that human beings are made in the image of God. And so, we are God's, and we should give ourselves back to him. So there's a bit of a parallel there. The image of God is found on us. So we should give ourselves back to God. And that means that Faith, and all of us, is an image of the living God of the universe. In some mysterious way, we are stamped with the image of the Creator. A bit like how the coin is stamped with the image of the king or queen or president. Having the image of God on us means this. Firstly, it means we have a real identity given to us from God. So human beings, we cannot make up, the human race cannot make up its own identity for themselves. We're not a blank slate we can do whatever we like with. His identity is stamped on us. And note, this is interesting. Humans are the only creatures the Bible tells us that God has made in his image. So, that means we can have a relationship with God and even work with God in a way that animals cannot. He loves animals, he created them, but we are made in the image of God. Secondly, it means this. Being made in the image of God means we are worth something. Being made in the image of God means we are worth something. God places massive value on human beings, so much value, he thought we were worth sending his son to die for us. That's the level of value God places on us. Thirdly, and finally, having the image of God means that we are under his authority. A bit like how the whole money system and money supply are under the government's control and authority, human beings belong to God and are under his authority, whether all of them acknowledge him this or not. So, how does this relate to our theme, Jesus is Lord all the time? Well, actually, very easily, I hope. If we belong to God, we need to give ourselves back to God. Then that means everything we are. If everything we are belongs to him. So we cannot say to God, I'll give you my mind, but not my body. My body I'll do whatever I want with. No, we can't do that. Nor can we say, I'll live for God in this area of life, but not in this other area of life. Everything we are is his, stamped with his image. So as Christians, Jesus is Lord all the time. And we can't divide up life into bits and choose what he'll be Lord over. Now, to get us thinking about this, we're going to introduce something new into our services, not every week, but sometimes, called This Time Tomorrow. And this time tomorrow is going to be a short slot in the services, which is going to hopefully help us understand that all of our life is meant to be lived by God, lived for God, not just certain parts of our life, but more on this time tomorrow in a minute, and Neil's going to be involved in that. So I wonder how you feel about this. I wonder if you think this idea of being made in the image of God is a big, heavy responsibility. It's a big thing. Well, I would say it's quite clear that it's a precious thing. We saw that from the Genesis passage. God created, and it was good. And one part of his creation was made in his image. Human beings were given dominion and consciousness and reason and all these things. They were made in a way something like God, even though they weren't God. You might think, I just don't feel like I live up to this very much. Don't feel like I live up to this very often. Well, guess what? Neither do I. Neither do I. God finds us really important. And he wants us to live our lives for him and to find joy in that. Not to find it as a big heavy thing, but to find ourselves saying, here I am, Lord. What's today? What are we going to do today? What have you got planned for today or tomorrow? He wants us to come like that, but so often we don't live like that, do we? Well, just know there was one human being made in the image of God who was always lived it out. Every second of his life he lived it out. And he was Jesus Christ. He lived as the image of God because he was the Son of God. And when he went to the cross, he died for us. He laid down his life so that we could be restored. So that we could be restored. And that's what God is into. Restoring lives. Restoring lives. I'm just going to preach briefly I'm going to mention a verse from Romans 8 as we finish. This is what it says. For those God foreknew and also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. God's will for us is to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. We are God's children. If we're in Christ, if we are trusting Christ, we are God's children, and he is remaking us to be more like Jesus. The beauty and delight that he has in Jesus belongs to us. He sees us as if he was seeing Jesus because of what he has done. And he is now remaking us more and more in his image. More on how we live that out as we think about this time tomorrow in a minute.